Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I am Dennis Deno. I am a trustee here at Michigan State University, and I'm also the chair of the Presidential Search Committee, and I'm really honored and humbled to have both positions, and I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say tonight. It's great to see such a wonderful turnout for this evening's open forum, the second such forum for faculty and academic staff. I'm not sure if there's any other trustees with us. Apologize about that. I don't see any, and if there are, I apologize. I know they've been watching some of the other forums, we are also joined by representatives from the executive search firm of Isaacson Miller, who are assisting us in recruiting our 22nd president for Michigan State University. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few thoughts. First, really thank you all for your willingness to give your time and attention to this very important search. I know in this beautiful mid-Michigan day today, 80 plus degrees, sun shining, you'd rather be on your back porch enjoying some iced tea or some other beverage, but I appreciate taking the time out to be here. Your commitment to MSU and its future is readily apparent. It's really appreciated. We are excited and grateful to work with all of you to forge a bright green future for our university. Michigan State University is an exceptional institution, and it demands an exceptional leader. We look forward to having an inclusive process that provides ample opportunity for input, as well as clear communication in the search progress. A search of this nature necessitates confidentiality, but we're looking forward to engaging our community in these beginning stages to hear what is important to you and on the minds of our entire Spartan community. The task of the search committee will be to consider your feedback as we conduct a thoughtful, engaging, and collaborative search. To that end, the purpose of today's session is to hear from you. We will hold additional open forums, which will provide more opportunities for the trustees on the search committee to hear from our community. With that, let me turn things over to our colleagues from Isaacson Miller to quickly cover the ground rules.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Dennis. Nice to see everybody here, and thanks for turning out. We're eager to be made smarter by everything you have to say. A few guidelines, if you will, maybe some suggestions how to proceed. Very useful here in these kinds of moments in a search to ask a few core questions. And let me start with one that you'll probably recognize, which is that what is it you want the next president to preserve about Michigan State that you think is so fundamental to the place and so important to it, or maybe just so successful that it should be something that the next president hangs right on, doesn't try to change in the slightest, but enhances it. Second, related question, every place should be thinking about what improvements it ought to make. So what in the next few years, 3 to 5 or so, would you want a president to take on to make substantial improvement? So those are the two broad framing questions. And then if it stirs your fancy, you could say a word or two about the qualifications or experience that you hope for in a president. So those are the broad framing questions, although, of course, anybody has a point of view or something they want to say, please do. We don't mean to be constraining. We're just trying to stir people up a little bit. One last suggestion about how to take all this on, which is that please, at least in your initial comments, could you keep it to 2 to 3 minutes or so? So just so we have time for everybody to make their comments. And then if we've gone through the list and we still have time, certainly raise your hand and we'll call on you again for a second round of commentary. And if somebody says exactly what you wanted to say, don't hesitate to say, that's just what I wanted to say. And you can maybe add a word or two to it, but you certainly don't have to repeat the entire speech. So thank you so much. And now I think if you're prepared, we'll call on the people who signed up first to speak. And if they're here, we'll call on them. And if they're not yet here, we'll take raised hands to see if there are people who would like to say their piece. So the first person, this is in alphabetical order, I think. Yes, it is. Who signed up. Kate Birdsall. Is Kate Birdsall here? I don't see her, but that just may be because my screen doesn't reveal it. Kate, are you here? I don't see her on the list, on the in the chat yet. Or if she does come in, please encourage her. Margaret Levy, is Margaret Levy here? Also she did sign up, but not yet in evidence. Okay. Kevin Leonard, I see Kevin's name as an attendee, so that would be great. Kevin, you're there? I see that Jeremy's.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
John.
you.
How are you this evening?
Well, I'm better now that you're speaking. I'm sitting here all alone. So thank you.
Good. Well, I appreciate again the search committee and trustee Deno and others making this time available for our community to give input. I'll keep it short and sweet to the aspect of when we had the last set of listening sessions for the last president search, I felt like the search committee really heard what our community had to say. We were looking for someone that was from the outside. There was a lot of lack of trust. There wasn't much transparency under the previous administration. And we were looking for someone who'd come in that could help us kind of, get through that difficult time. And, to build that trust needed to not necessarily have deep ties to MSU, but maybe superficial ties. And they gave us what we felt was a really good president, and President Stanley. And a lot of the characteristics that he possessed and our interim president Woodruff possessed are still the ones that we're looking for. As a member of the Native American Faculty and Staff Association here, former member of Quorum, Coalition of Racial and Ethnic Minorities, we are still, hoping that when we look at this next candidate, they possess the same qualities that President Stanley and interim President Woodruff have, in that they support these initiatives for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a lot of headway that's been made in the short time that both of them have been here, and we hope that continues. They broke ground the other day, and I unfortunately wasn't not able to be there, but from what I was able to watch, it was a beautiful ceremony. And that multicultural center is a long time coming, but there's a lot of other things that are occurring on campus that are starting to right the wrongs of 20 to 30 plus years of either neglect or purposeful oppression. And we need to have a leader who's continually going to be committed to upholding the headway that we've made along those lines of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Making sure that our communities of color, our Latinx community, our Apita Aspa, the Native community, our Black Faculty Staff Association, and others have seats at the table. And it's not just even seats, having a voice. You can ask many of our communities the first time in many years that our communities felt like they not only had a seat, but they had a voice in what was going on and what was happening within the leadership of our institution. And that's refreshing. And something that we're going to continue to hopefully look for in the next candidate. And that's where I'll leave it there. I know others need to speak tonight as well. So thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Hey, John, if I can just cut in, and first, thank you, Kevin, for
please.
your comments. That was great. I just want to, welcome also fellow trustee Dan Kelly, who joined us.
Yeah, hi, Dennis. Thank you.
And if I can just add, Dan's also on the presidential search committee, along with Renee Kanaki Jefferson, trustee Renee Kanaki Jefferson, and trustee Brianna Scott. So you got 2 of the 4.
Correct. Michael Halverson, is Michael Halverson there? Signed up earlier. Oh, there he is. Good. Hi, Michael.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. We can't
Great.
see you, but we can sure hear you.
Okay, great. So I guess I really wanted to highlight some of the more practical aspects of what I'm interested in the new president. A few issues. First of all, a president that's actually actively engaged with the faculty and staff would be great, particularly someone who came through more of a traditional faculty promotion series. I felt this is something that we had with Glenn Simon that previous 2 presidents didn't quite live up to. So I guess that's one of the big things. Another big thing is fixing some of the benefits that the faculty, staff, and basically everyone working at the university has to deal with, like, for instance, everyone knows the dental plan is terrible.
Ah,
This is like a widely known open secret, but we've been here for about 9 years. Nothing has really changed. And so that's something I would really like to see is overhauling there. Health plan is pretty affordable, but again, there's some issues that need to be dealt with there. And I guess the last thing is the payroll and retirement, particularly the raise systems that, we've had a lot of inflation lately, and I don't see wages really keeping up with what's going on with inflation. So I would definitely like to see the president addressing that for everyone that works at MSU. So that's my take.
Thank you. Andy Spencer, are you there, Andrew? I don't see Andy yet. Perhaps he'll come back in. Emily Sarosh. See Emily as yet. Marisol Quintanalia. Marisol, I think I mispronounced your last name, Marisol. No. Paula Winky. Or Paul Pridgeon. I don't think any of these folks are here. So among our attendees tonight, we have 13 people who are here. Do we have someone who would like to take up the next speaker role? We're happy to see a raised hands. Well, make us a little smarter, folks. I think, let's see, is that Kevin again? That'd be good. That's helpful. Thank you, Kevin.
That's me
the
again. I hate for you to sit there and not have anybody. This
Well, that's right.
pertains to
Much appreciated.
yeah. We've started making some headways with our human resource department. With the hiring of Vice President Christine Brogdon, that was a great hire. She's a phenomenal individual. And she has a lot of work ahead of her, as I think probably our board well knows. But I would say that the next president really needs to come in and continue to support the efforts that are being made there in helping streamline our human resources. And I think the previous member kind of talked to that. There's a lot of things that need to change, from how we hire to consistency in how we hire, but also in our packages, and how those are made so that they are competitive with those other institutions that we may be losing faculty or staff to. So it's I would echo there as well, that we need to make sure that our next leader understands the importance of the work that needs to be done in our human resource offices across campus, and bringing those back online and streamlining them and bringing them together.
Terrific. Someone else to speak next. No need to be shy, folks. Well, what would you most like to see a president do? Thank you, Jill.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the environment and what's going on campus. I am an alumna as well as a staff person that work in university advancement. And I really want the next president, there's a lot of things that I would like to see for the next president, but I really do want them to really have a plan on how we're going to keep this campus safe. And unfortunately, we had the tragedy that happened in February on the 13th, but, I really would like to hear a plan in place. Yeah, I've heard of some different initiatives, but we need to feel like it's a safe campus. And that's for all of us, not only the students, but us that work on the campus as well. So that's just one thing that I would like to see. Good,
well said. I'm sure it's on people's minds, and it should be on the next president's mind. We have a next speaker. I see Lorraine Weatherspoon has a hand up. That's good news, Lorraine.
Hi, I just, Lorraine Weatherspoon, as you implied, I'm just curious to know how is the final composition of the committee going to be determined with regard to representation, and how are final decisions going to be made? It sounds like there are 4 individuals from the Board of Trustees. I'm not sure if this is typical, because I cannot remember what the composition of the last search committee was. So just curious to know and trying to ensure, like Kevin indicated in the beginning, that we have representation from all of the key stakeholders.
Well, I can start us for half a second, but then I think our trustees may want to weigh in here. I know that I know that the trustees intend to have a highly representative committee and large enough to have representation from many different constituencies of faculty, staff, students, I think alumni as well. And perhaps Dennis or Dan can say a word about how that, what that distribution is. I should also say that you always have at least 4 trustees on a committee like this, and that's really quite a modest number for a search committee like this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to start, Dan, unless you want to kick in.
No, go ahead, Dennis.
Thanks. That's a great question. So the 4 trustees have been working to build a very broad-based, diverse search committee that includes faculty, includes staff, includes alumni, includes students, deans, and leadership within the university. I'm sure I'm missing other groups. Michigan State is obviously a large, incredibly diverse, an awesome university, and we're trying to touch every corner of our community and every corner of our state. We also want this search committee to be representative of different geographical regions of the state and also different races and ethnicities. So sorry, John, it's going to be a little larger than what you had initially recommended.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, it's something that all 4 trustees wanted to agree on. So we will hopefully be announcing the names in the next week or so. I'm really proud of the committee that's going to be coming out. I think they're really strong and just really represent our university and our state.
Great.
Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything or not. So
No, I think you summarized it well. It will be a larger than normal committee, but I think it is diverse. It should include representation from across the MSU community. So that's what I'm excited about, and we can work together to come up with a new president that will meet most people's needs. So thank you. I apologize for not being on the screen, but I just went through surgery, as Dennis knows. And so I'm not up to being on video. So thank you.
So Dan, it's hip surgery. It's not like plastic surgery, so we can still see your pretty face. But...
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised.
Shows some strain, does it here or there? Yeah. Well, I think you're forgiven.
But seriously, I hope you're feeling better, Dan.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
I see Dean Lee up as the next person. Dean, help enlighten us.
All right. Can you hear me?
We can, Dean. Thanks.
Okay, great. So there were some concerns that Michigan State University might lose its membership in the Association of American Universities, the AAU.
Yep.
And so I would like the president to emphasize academic excellence and research activities in the departments and the colleges, and to really be ambitious about where we can go.
I'm sure that's shared by the board, but it's a terrific, crisp, clean statement, Dean. Let's see. I don't see anyone else at the moment. Yes, Stephen Melnick. Please, Stephen. We can, yes, we see your raised hand, Stephen. We can't hear you yet. Should be off.
No, let me try it now.
No, you got it. We can hear you.
Okay, I keep forgetting that I have to turn on my AD. Anyway, I'm going to limit myself to 4 major points. I've been here for over 40 years. And
Oh,
as one person once said that they've been 40 of the oddest years in my life. I have 4 issues that I like to have the incoming president, or we should consider. Number 1 is an issue that I think many people have seen, and it's the issue of transparency. Transparency is not a selective trait. Transparency should occur in everything we do, which means if you are questioned, you answer promptly and you provide people with the ability to evaluate what you've done. And that's been a concern I have. Number 2, the other issue I think we have to think about is I'm concerned we're losing focus or a grasp of our land grant origins. I'm not originally from this country. I came from Canada. And one of the things that attracted me to Michigan State University was its emphasis on land grant and the fact that we were charged to have an impact not only on academic, but also on the industrial life, the economic life of our community. And I'm concerned about the fact that in our past discussions, we've talked about chairs or chaired positions, we have lost sight of that. This is related to another comment that was made, and that is, as we look forward, I'm looking not only at a strategic vision, which I have not seen a lot of, and I've worked with companies as a business professor on strategic visioning, and the stuff that I've seen recently coming out of Michigan State cannot be characterized as strategic in any way, shape, or form. Part of that strategic visioning is a question which I think we need guidance on. What defines academic impact? Right now, academic impact is measured in terms of do you publish enough articles in the top tier journals? But yet, when I had a conversation with Roger Callantone, who was in marketing, who's now retired, he made the observation that when he talked with universities like MIT, Harvard, etc., about how they measured impact, they didn't look at the number of articles. They looked at how the articles or the research being carried out influenced the practice or theory of the field. And yet, in many cases, I see ourselves counting coups, so to speak, where we look at the number of top tier hits, irrespective of whether they have really impacted the theory or practice. So those are the 4 things that is to repeat: transparency, land grant, strategic visioning, and we need that. The reason so much so because if you read the articles, universities are going to come under pressure because people are starting to question the value proposition. And the final thing is define, especially for a land grant school, what constitutes academic impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking to see if we have someone else so far. Anyone else who would like to speak? Don't see any hands raised as yet. Lorraine Weatherspoon. Thank you, Lorraine.
I'm sorry. As a follow-up to my first question, and I guess I'm just more interested also in process to ensure that we do indeed get the best possible person. So how will final decisions be made? Will it be a democratic process based on all of the people who are on the committee? My first question was how will about the composition of the committee. So in terms of final decisions, how will that occur? Would it be democratic based on votes by the committee, or would there be some executive decisions that are made? And I guess this kind of ties in a little bit, I think, with the transparency piece that Stephen is referring to some extent.
Well, just one word, and then we'll turn to our chairs here for a second, but maybe I'll frame it up for you. Search committees, just as a matter of governance in every university, this one included, the board has the final decision and must have the final decision. They own the fiduciary duty of the university. The search committee is constituted of the board to advise the board, and the rules for its operation are given to it in the charge from the board. Usually that means that the committee will consider some considerable range of candidates, maybe many, and then interview any number. It could be, quite a few, 8 or 10 or so, and then make recommendations for the finalists to the board, or for yet another round of discussions. And at that moment, that there is a moment here when the search committee comes to its conclusion, usually by some democratic process, but then hands it on to the board, and then it's an executive decision within the confines of the board. Now, I don't think we've had those discussions within this board or this search committee as yet, so it's a little too early to say for sure, but that's the usual way in virtually every university, that kind of thing is roughly what happens. I don't know whether Dennis or Dan, you want to add or subtract from my commentary. I'm freelancing it a little bit here.
No, I don't want to subtract. Maybe I understood your question a little differently, Lorraine. And if I didn't, I apologize. My understanding was how are the members picked on the search committee? And if that was not your question, I apologize. But it was the processes that we have taken names of people who have requested to be on the search committee with regards to the faculty and the students. We've asked them to advise us on who they would like to see on the search committee. And it's the list of people on the search committee is something that all 4 trustees on the committee have agreed on. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, that was the first question. And the second question was in terms of the final decision making, to what extent will a democratic process, I mean, if you've got all these stakeholders, to what extent will the opinion be taken into consideration? I appreciate and respect that a final decision would be made by the board, but on the basis of a democratic process, or would that be just an executive decision?
I mean, I can speak for myself as one trustee. I can't speak on behalf of the entire board, but I would like to think that I mean, I'm going to listen. I'm on this listening session. I'm going to listen to the listening sessions I didn't participate in, and I'm participating in most of the listening sessions. I'm going to be listening to our community. I'm going to be listening to our stakeholders. I need to hear what the community wants. I don't have all the answers. So, I mean, this is critically important for me to hear, what our large Spartan community wants and needs from our permanent president. So I'm going to be listening attentively. I think all of our trustees are going to, and that's why we're involved in this process right now.
Thank
Dan?
you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sure. The only thing that I would add to that, Dennis, is it's actually by law, the 8 members of the Board of Trustees select the president, whether we like it or not. Now, having said that, the search committee is an important recommending body. I sat on the previous presidential search committee, and we were all in agreement with the recommendation back to the board, and the board then selected Sam Stanley. So I hope and I see the process working the same way this time around.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's someone else who wants to speak. I don't see anyone as yet. I do have one last comment, folks, that, you should feel free. There's a way on the website to make recommendations to us or additional comments if you'd like. And if there's a recommendation you want to make for someone you think who should be president, we're eager to hear from you. And you're certainly encouraged to make those kinds of recommendations to us and to the search committee. We'll convey anything you put forward onto the website, onto the search committee. Maybe I'll turn back now to Dennis for some final comments.
Yeah, sure. I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their evening today, and the folks who took time out of their busy schedules for the first 2 forums. I can say that I watched the first 2 forums. I'll be participating in almost all the other ones. I know our other trustees are doing the same. And I'm really encouraged that people are speaking out and they really care about their university, and not just through these forums. So that's really encouraging. And I really need to hear from everybody on what they want for the future of this really great university. So thank you again for being here. We have one at 7 o'clock for community members, including alumni. Other dates and times can be found on the Presidential Search website. And again, if anyone was unable to speak or you prefer to do so in writing, please submit your written responses through our feedback forum. My fellow trustees and I truly value your input, and we'll take your feedback into consideration as the process moves forward. Thank you all again for joining us, and we look forward to our continued collaboration.
All the very best, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you, John and Dennis, and good night to all.
Good night, Dan. Heal well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.